Good evening, and you're very welcome back to Final Whistle here. It's the Women's National League podcast on Final Whistle with myself, Breffney Early, and of course, Aaron Clark joins me again. Aaron, you're very welcome back.
Good afternoon, or good evening, should I say. How are we?
It's definitely evening. I don't know where you've been. I know you've been in different time zones over the last week or two in Albania and whatnot. The weather is probably coming into your equation there as well, because it's been that will come up. We're also going to be joined by Meabh de Burca. Of course, needs no introduction to anybody who's followed the women's game in the country for the last number of, I was going to say decades. That's not very nice, Meabh. I apologize. She's listening in the background, but definitely for the last few years at least, no stranger to anyone who follows Galway football, or also to the Irish team. Well capped, a half centurion. She'll be joining us to talk about all things women's football. We'll be chatting about Galway United's season. We'll be chatting about the Irish qualification and promotion to Group A of the Nations League, but also, and more pressingly, considering the second episode airs at 9:30 this evening, the brand new women's soccer edition of the Underdogs. It's a brand new series from TG Cahir, and they're finally taking on the female version of the beautiful game. They've obviously done former series on I was going to say hockey there, but it's not. It's hurling, Gaelic football, and other sports. So nice to see them kind of embrace women's football this year in what has been a pretty historic year for the sport in the country. So we'll be chatting to her very, very shortly. But Aaron, first of all, before we do that, we'll get Meabh's opinion on this in due course. But have you managed to dry yourself out from what looked like an absolute monsoon in Albania on Tuesday night?
Funny thing is that it didn't get wet. That's the funny thing about it. And I had a friend of mine actually text me when I sent him a picture being like, "You must be drenched." I was like, "Nope, it was undercover." What a night. Where do we start, Breffney? I know we'll talk about the Albania game at home as well, but like, what a mad, chaotic. The words are just.
I've never seen anything like it. And I wasn't even there. I was just watching it from the screens from home, and I don't even think RTE knew how to deal with it. It was just a mad evening. Maybe let's
had
get
some great crack on social media, though. I'm not going to lie, especially being one of the only journalists in the stadium. You know, everybody's pawing onto every word you say, every tweet you make, and it was just absolutely chaotic. It was fun. That's all I'd say. As much it was as didn't know what was happening, but it all adds to the excitement, and it's one of them trips you'll talk about for a long time.
I think it was fun because you stayed dry. I'm not sure the players would agree with having to play about 20 minutes in probably the worst weather I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen some pretty bad weather over the years. But maybe let's get the opinion of Meabh de Burca, of course, part of the RTE commentary team for the women's internationals this year, the World Cup included. Your thoughts on the game on Tuesday night, first of all, Meabh. First of all, welcome to the show. But in terms of your thoughts on the game on Tuesday night, have you seen anything like that before?
No, the only thing it kind of brought back memories for me of was when we played the playoff in Iceland on a frozen pitch where we couldn't even run on it. We skidded everywhere, and obviously the game went ahead in that case and we lost. But that's the only thing that I suppose it did bring back memories of that. But no, the game itself, it was crazy, but it was crazy, I think, how quickly it escalated as well, because at the start the pitch was totally playable, and then I'd say within probably around 20-minute mark, around 20 to 30 minutes, it really got very bad. And the end, I couldn't believe like the last 10 minutes of the first half was played in those conditions.
I think
should it have been called earlier than halftime?
Yeah, it was like you have to just think of the player welfare in that case. Like if someone got a serious injury, you know, the pitch wasn't playable. So once it became unplayable, I think, you know, it should have been called off. But that's easy to say in hindsight. But when you're the ref in the middle of it, you know, you have a lot of factors to consider as well.
I'm going to throw a couple of nuggets in there for you as well. There was thunder and lightning as well. Before as the game was actually being played. Like it started at one stage, it started off if you look from where the TV cameras were, it started off to the left-hand side. And by the end of the game, the thunder and lightning was on the right-hand side. Never actually hit the pitch, but like even things like that with a wet surface like that, thunder and lightning isn't good. And like when you're looking at it getting worse, you can visibly see it. Like I don't think at times looking at some of the pictures on the TV, it probably done it justice as to how bad it actually was. Like it was gradually, like it was just getting so bad, and like I think the first 20 minutes there was no water on the pitch. All of a sudden, a puddle, 2 puddles, 3 puddles. Like we were in the stadium in mesmerized that it was continuing to be played. And like when you're looking at this sort of thing, your question then comes into if it was a League A game, does it get stopped? And you're probably saying yes. Was it because they were under pressure to play the game? Potentially, but what happens if a player that picked up a serious injury there? Like, who's liable? The UEFA, the FAI. Like, there's so many tangibles and variables there that, like, I think, though, if the referee had called it early in the first half, I don't think we get back for the second half. I think the game is played the next day. I think by her actually getting to half time, it actually allowed them a little bit of time. But even when the rain delay was on, like, at times the rain would ease up, they'd clear a couple of puddles off the park, and then all of a sudden it would hit again. Like, the biggest problem is the surface was quite hard, so it wasn't actually soaking up the water. It was just sort of puddling on the top of it. And even when they went out and you see them putting like pitchforks into the ground to try and to clear some of it, it wasn't. The funny thing is, when you look at the pictures, the far side of the pitch, they never actually touched. Everything was on the near side. Is where they were sweeping it all off, because it seemed it wasn't draining on this side. But, like, listen, when you get that second half underway, I'd take a 1-0 win and run all day of the week. I think it's one of the hardest things to concentrate. Like, I spoke to players after, and they were saying, like, they'd showered and all. They were in tracksuits thinking they were getting back on the bus, and then news started to filter through. Like, the referee come out and looked at about 40 minutes into the delay and was like, remove the top layer of water and we'll play. And that's when we started realised this game is getting back underway. I think there was a lot of confusion even amongst with RTE when the game was going to come back, when it was going to come back, because there was talks being saying that it was going to come back at 8 o'clock Irish time. Then I think it resumed at like 10 past 7, quarter past 7 Irish time. So there was a lot of, uncertainty in the ground. Like, we weren't being told anything apart from the FAI's social media account, really.
Yeah, so we had the same situation. I missed the first 10 minutes of the second half because it took me that long just to work out what was happening. From your point of view, Meabh, looking at the international team for the last few months, what's your thoughts on where we've gone? Let's not get dragged into anything about the World Cup. That's kind of been talked about at length. But since the appointment of Eileen Gleeson on an interim basis, a couple of new players coming into the team. We've seen the return of Tyler Toland. Caitlin Hayes has come in, made a really big impression. Ciara Carusa has really grown into that role. Katie McCabe's been on fire. Denise Sullivan chipped in with that phenomenal goal at the death on Tuesday night. What's your thoughts on how it's gone for Ireland? And is this something you would have expected Ireland to be able to produce at this level?
Yeah, I suppose can't really factor in too much. Only, with the opposition is a huge thing that comes into play. The teams that we're playing have been playing over the last kind of couple of months. But it is, it's great to see. But even the likes of Carusa, again, if you're playing a stronger opposition, her role just immediately changes to one where she's holding the ball up and chasing balls into the channels. Whereas obviously when we have the majority of the possession and we're playing two up front, where with Katie right beside her, really, then definitely it helps. And I suppose it's something I could have seen it, just like I said, just given the opposition that we are playing against. But at the same time, we can only play what's in front of you too. And to have gotten, the wins under the belt at this stage is great. They'd be disappointed not to have kept the clean sheet, I think, at home to Albania. But, it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be things to work on. And I think it's been, so far so good. Definitely the addition of Caitlin Hayes in particular has been really positive, because she just adds another kind of dimension to the back line there. Her passing range is incredible. I don't think we've seen that really in an Ireland jersey recently, just the way she can, particularly her diagonal switches from the back out to the left side, are really, really good to watch. So all positive, I think, going forward, and Eileen has done a good job at them.
It's very easy to have a nice diagonal ball when Katie McCabe's at the end of it as well. It's a nice target to have. In terms of, I suppose, where we're going from here, obviously we're going to the last two games as favourites. Myself and Aaron have spoken about how anything less than 6 wins out of 6 would have been seen as a question mark against this kind of opposition. But to be fair to this Irish side, averted disaster on Tuesday night with that late goal, but it's been methodical. It's been really solid, and they've performed and they've produced, and they've really wiped the floor with all three sides in the group so far.
Yeah, they have. And I suppose in the past we would have struggled to put goals away, and numbers of goals, like that. It would usually be just maybe a 1 or 2-0 win. Now, see, the game away to Albania is that just, I wouldn't have really classified it as a proper game as such to analyse. But aside from that, they've obviously been able to put the ball in the back of the net a few times in each game. And that's been a really positive thing. And I think it's good for the attackers as well to kind of get that confidence and just to be able to work on the sort of combination playing that in the final third, which you obviously don't get a chance to do when you don't have the ball against a stronger team. So at least you may kind of hope that we might see a bit more of that now when we do face a stronger opposition in the new year.
So just on that then, Bethany, obviously for the listeners, Ireland do qualify for League A for the fact of Hungary and Northern Ireland drawing Ireland 2 games. I'd expect a bit of change in the group in terms of players just because of the last 2 games, with the fact of being already qualified. The Northern Ireland game confirmed for Windsor Park as well, which is great. Also assured a playoff as well for the next European Championships, which is massive. And if we were to finish, say, first or second in League A, we'd automatically qualify for the Euros as well. So like, there's so much to play for. The playoff permutations, we'll get into them another day when the draws happen and stuff like that, and we know where our teams are. But like, the fact you can say we have a playoff, we have a chance of getting to the next European Championships, and like, I'd expect Ireland to improve massively. If you look back at the 2 games over against Albania, I don't think we were great. I think we were sloppy at times. The first when we go ahead against Albania at home, and then get pegged back, that 20 minutes after that was sort of a bit how would you say, ropey. I think the addition of Sinead Farrelly at half time at a home game was massive. And like, you look at the game on Tuesday, that sort of game wasn't made for the likes of a Sinead Farrelly, just because of the fact of the conditions. She couldn't really pass the ball around. It was more like kicking up buckets of water. And then for me, the second half, what was the important thing is the fact that they ground out the result. They pushed for opportunities. They created chances. They just weren't going to drop to them. On many of Ireland teams, they would have just said, okay, listen, it's not happening. We're going to go away with a 0-0 draw. We'll just take it. It's not the worst result considering the circumstances. But the fact that they were able to just get onto their front foot and continue to go, like the goal itself, it's a lovely cross. It's a good cross from Izzy takes the throw in, plays a 1-2, and then gets it back and crosses it. Nice touch from Ciara Carusa, and then Denise O'Sullivan just being Denise O'Sullivan and coming up with clutch moments for Ireland. And like, you just think of the magnitude and the importance of that 3 points. And I think that's what really sets them apart, is the fact that they're seeing games out a lot more to the end, and they are trying to do things. No, it's not perfect. It's far from perfect, but they're trying to do things that maybe in the last campaigns we were sitting back deep, we were holding. Like, if it was to be critical of the Albania second half, she had 2 holding midfielders on when she had Jamie and Tyler both sitting holding. Probably didn't necessarily need that, but was it a case of just not wanting to be caught in the counter? And like, there's lots to work on. There's lots of good things that have come out with these first 4 games, and like, you just have to be happy to be on 12 points.
Yeah. What can we expect to see, Meabh, in the last 2 games, in your opinion? Do we see a very changed Ireland side? Do we see maybe opportunities for the likes of Hayley Nolan, even some of the girls who haven't had much of a chance impressing at club level, but just haven't managed to have that breakthrough in an Irish shirt? Is that likely to happen, or are we likely to see more of the same and just close out the campaign?
I think it could be kind of maybe a bit of a mix. I don't think she'll like completely change the starting 11, but at the same time, you're never going to get a better opportunity. Like, you've never played competitive games where we don't need a result. Like, the results don't actually, essentially matter. In a way, obviously, yeah, they want to keep building the confidence, keep the wins and keep the clean sheets. But at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter. So I think it'd be great to see a few of the girls introduced from the start as well. At least it's different when you're coming on the pitch at half time or into a game, whereas, you're getting the opportunity to start. It would be great. It's a bit disappointing that Erin McLaughlin's first start was in the conditions it was over in Albania. So it'd be nice to see her get another chance, maybe because she just, was a really difficult game to have an impact in. And yeah, like you said, just a few of the newer girls, just to kind of blood them in going into the new campaign as well. But I think it shouldn't be a complete overhaul, because often in the past, when you'd be giving girls chances, it might be like in a friendly tournament, and the entire team nearly would change, and then that's very difficult for them. So I think, yeah, hopefully see maybe 3 or 4 changes, something like that from the start would be nice, just to give them like set opportunities. But then at the same time, it does give a bit of continuity and chance to work on, like the likes of Katie and Ciara up front. Would you want to change that either? Would you want to give them a bit more time together too? So yeah, there's pros and cons. I suppose it's really up to Eileen and what she sees fit.
What's it like though, Meabh, for an ex-senior international when you're watching on with this group? you know, the last 12 to 18 months. What's it been like watching on when you're seeing the success that you've had, considering, you know, you've talked about even playing games in Iceland where the pitch is frozen and stuff like that, to where we were to where they are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's great, although looking back and Tuesday night, there might have been that much progress in terms of the pitches, but no, in fairness, they have definitely developed, and I think it's just the support and the backing as well behind them, and I suppose watching on, really, the best side of it would be just the fact that there's more publicity and more kind of support around the team now, which is obviously going to have a knock-on effect on the younger kids playing, and that's kind of where we need it to happen. The downside is I suppose the lack of women's National League players in the squad at the moment. Only like one or none is the usual amount at the moment. But then I suppose maybe you can argue that National League is serving its purpose, and it's just developing the girls a lot quicker than it would have in the past, and they're getting plenty of minutes and game time at an earlier age with the underage leagues, and in that case then they're ready to go abroad at an earlier stage too. So I think it's definitely a good thing, I suppose, in that case. But the league itself is always good to keep kind of promoting that as well as the girls, the national team. But has been great to see, and yeah, it's nice watching on just and to be able to kind of support them as well, and hopefully now, you know, to get to another Euros would really be a huge thing, because you wouldn't want qualifying for a major tournament to be a once off, and to have a Euros where people could travel. Obviously you're over in Australia, but to have Euros in Europe obviously would mean a huge fan base as well. Obviously in Sydney there was huge numbers of the Irish, so it'd be great to give, I suppose, a lot of people at home who've been following the team for years as well, I kind of give a lot of them an opportunity to go and support the girls too.
When you look back at games that, like the Aviva, the Northern Ireland game and the Aviva, I know you've played in games against Northern Ireland where there was maybe triple figures at a push. If you take out family and friends, it's a scattering of people, coaches and all that sort of stuff around the game, where literally everybody knew everybody in the ground. Is there a little bit of jealousy when you look back at it and go, I would have liked to have played in days like this?
No, I wouldn't say jealousy. It's more, it's different times really. Like it just was the times that we were in at the time, and every time you're representing Ireland really is special. So obviously the occasions like the Aviva, it's not it's great to see it developing. Like you wouldn't want it to stay in the past too, and you wanted to keep moving forward and the game to develop, like I said, for the younger kids, and to see the role models there that we wouldn't have seen, just again because of times, because of how times were. But I wouldn't go back and change a thing really, in terms of everyone has their own kind of journey they're on and that type of thing. And I really enjoyed all the many years I spent with the team. I'm also enjoying the free time now when every spare minute isn't spent thinking about football or playing football. So it's positive watching on, I think, and being able to support the girls.
Also, was mentioned on that day in the Aviva, you weren't necessarily not involved, maybe not on the pitch, but there was a presentation of caps to every single player who'd ever represented the country at national level, and you were all invited in and presented with a kind of I think a special cap and a kind of a presentation of that. Talk to us about that event just before we move away from the international stuff. Enjoyable, nice to be part of?
Yeah, it was really good. It was great for them to kind of, I suppose, give the recognition, like I said there, to all the girls who would have represented the national team at senior level in the past. And many girls from, I suppose, a good few years before my time, they wouldn't have actually received a physical cap. So for them, it was even more special, I think, to actually hold a cap for the first time. I'm sure for them was really a special moment. And obviously each season I played, we got a cap for that. So it was nice, so kind of to see a lot of familiar faces as well, and to kind of reminisce about the good times and the crack we had representing Ireland, and also just to see how many people like were there as well that you mightn't have necessarily known, or even other women from Galway who represented Ireland who I wouldn't have crossed paths with that regularly either. It was good to kind of have that event, and it was really, really well run event as well by the FAI. In fairness to them, they put on a full kind of breakfast spread for us, and we each went up then and collected our cap, and obviously then got the tickets to the game as well. So yeah, it was a good day overall.
I like that. I like that. I like the whole idea about it. And like even you've mentioned the Aviva Breffney. I think League A is definitely going to give us an opportunity to have more games in the Aviva, probably multiple games in the Aviva. I'm going to go on the record. I'd love a crack at England in the Aviva and then play one somewhere like Wembley, just to say we haven't done it in a long time. It'd be a perfect ideal opportunity. But like, May, for me, with what we're seeing now, with everything that you're doing away from, I know we're going to touch on the other stuff in a moment. Is the footballing days behind you now, or do you still hold that little ambition of playing a little bit more, or where are we when it comes to the likes of playing for yourself?
Not too sure, to be honest. I took a break there probably 2 years ago at this stage to go traveling, and I haven't gone back to the football yet. I'm just playing a bit of Gaelic football still with my local club here, St. Michael's. But the soccer days are, I don't know, I'm on a hiatus still. I don't know whether that's a permanent one or not. But at the moment, I suppose I'm enjoying being able to travel. I work fully remote as well, my day job, so I can kind of work from anywhere, which gives me a lot of flexibility, and obviously a flexibility that I wouldn't have had in the past. So in between the dates or filming with Underdogs, I can kind of go and got a trip to America in for a while and worked a little bit over there, and then I was in Paris recently as well. So it's kind of, I suppose, all those things considered, it's hard to go back to football at the moment, but I'm not kind of writing it off. Maybe down the line, I might go back to it. Who knows?
And even in terms of like when you look at, I guess, this preference coming in and out there. When you look at say things like Galway at the minute, you know, does that give you any sort of an itch because you see what the men are doing winning the first division and the women winning the All Ireland Cup? Does that sort of, how is it watching on and seeing all that, seeing the success in Galway? Does that spur you on?
Yeah, it's great to see it, and like obviously as a supporter, it's great to see it. But I know that, I suppose, single-handedly the amount of work that goes in as well, and the commitment of, you know, you're 3 days on the pitch and you're, you know, a night or two other nights on your own training as well, and then obviously not to mention the treks around Ireland to Ferry Carrick Park. It was never my favourite, and we used to always seem to get them away in every cup going while I was playing anyway. But no, it is, yeah, it is great to see it. You know, you'd love to see them really push on in the league as well. I think the one thing, and even what was missing in my 9 seasons as well, as a goal scorer for Galway, you know, and a regular goal scorer. So I think that's just the one kind of maybe the missing piece. If we could get that, I think would really go on to great success. But it was great to see them win the All Ireland Cup, definitely, because it was a long time kind of waiting for some kind of silverware in Galway. So yeah, it was about time.
I had the pleasure. So first of all, apologies for dropping out, just a dodgy internet connection tonight. But I did have the pleasure of co-commentating on that, probably because the likes of yourself were all on the other side of the planet following the Women's World Cup. In terms, Meabh, of, let's talk about the Underdogs. I don't know if I might have dropped out there again, sorry. But let's talk about the Underdogs for a minute, because that's obviously, it's a huge focus now coming into the end of the season. Really successful launch to it last week. I loved the first episode. It was as emotional as I've ever seen any story on Pop Idol or X Factor or anything like that. It just kept coming up with this emotional tearjerker after tearjerker.
We might be missing him again.
I think he's gone again. But I think what he was probably trying to say is, from your side though, like, Meabh, what's it been like starting filming and things like that with the Underdogs?
Yeah, it was great. We started back in the middle of June, actually. So I was in Peru at the time when I got the call, and I intended to keep traveling, but then I weighed up the opportunity, I suppose, and that combined with possibility of working with RT for the World Cup as well, I thought it was kind of the time to come back to Ireland for a while at least. So it was great. We got going in June, actually. So I think we got a lot of abuse in the first episode for we were all wearing sunglasses, but it was actually the hottest day of the year, and we really needed them. But anyway, it was good. Yeah, we had some good sunny days in the first kind of couple episodes filming, and then it's been really interesting to see, I suppose, how they go about it and how the the show is how it's produced as well, and edited and that type of thing, because we do about 12 hours maybe of work for 10 minutes of TV. So it's incredible, really. The first day was, we had so many trials and callbacks and that type of thing. Or we were in the room there for about, I think 4, maybe actually it was up to 6 hours, I think, giving the girls the news, and it was on TV for, I'd say, less than 6 minutes. So that type of thing it's interesting to see. We're a little apprehensive, I think, the three of us coaches, before the first episode, because we'd only seen snippets as well that had been on social media, so we weren't sure how we might be portrayed, because the camera's always on us when the girls are playing as well, so you wouldn't know what might slip out now and again, when you're watching the games. So but like I said there, Breffney, I think it was a great first episode to kick off.
In terms of some
I'm not going to lie, Breffney. Sorry, just over. I haven't seen the first episode. Yeah, I've been hectic the last week. I do plan on catching up. I'll watch the first and then I'll watch the second one. So don't worry, I will have the full details for next week. So don't worry, Breffney.
That's a black mark against your name.
Talk with me. The TG Cahir player anyway, so it's always available on there.
Who has impressed you? Because I know there's some girls who you may know from your own playing days. The likes of Barbara O'Connell is there, and a few others from a fairly wide range of ages. What players have impressed you? And are there some we haven't quite seen enough of yet?
Yeah, there's definitely some quality players there, and some who would have played in the league like a good few years ago now. Obviously, the criteria is that they can't have played in the last 3 seasons, but there is a few girls who would have played before that. Obviously from Galway, there's the likes of Aoife Walsh and Cara Mullins who appeared in the first episode there, and Shauna Jackson as well, who would have played in the past. And like you mentioned, Barbara, she would be the most experienced of the group, and there's even younger girls like Taylor Massey, who would have played for Shelburne underage, never played in the senior women's national league. So there's a huge kind of age range and just variation on experience, and some girls who never played in the league, or who don't necessarily want to play in the league, but just that are trying to really push on their game as well. And a lot of them have different reasons for entering the show and or the TV show. So it's been good to kind of, and it'll be interesting, I think, for viewers to follow all their journeys as well.
Bit of a just I want to get delve in a little bit when you're talking about players like that. There's a bit of a two-pronged question. First part, did you, like, you see, because you mentioned a couple of players there, did you expect the interest to be so high in terms of, because the criteria is a bit of a difficult one with the fact that it's 3 years, it's quite a long time to be able to, did you expect it to be so high? And do you think from seeing these players that they'll really sort of shock a lot of people, because you've got to work firsthand with them, because we've been able to watch the likes of Barbara O'Connell. We know what Barbara O'Connell is like, but there's players you mentioned there, Taylor Massey, been in and around Shells, hasn't got a look in. Shauna Jackson, seen a bit of her playing. There's players we've seen playing. Do you think that with the time away, they're going to put in a surprise a few people?
Yeah, I think so. There's definitely like that. A lot of them, I mean, the interest initially was crazy. Like, I thought when it first came out, I was throwing around a few texts because I was afraid that maybe, girls mightn't apply or the interest might be there, but it was incredible. Like, the list we had to go through at the start, the thing had to be cut down even before trials. There were hundreds of applicants, and we had to shortlist them for trials even, before. We couldn't invite everyone to trial because there was just so many applicants, like hundreds of applicants. So that was a really, really positive thing to see. And I suppose the one thing about it as well is that you had to apply yourself. You couldn't have been invited. So I suppose as Irish people, it's hard to nearly put your hand up and say like that, oh, I think I'm good enough for this. So that's, I think, a lot of credit has to go even to the girls themselves for applying and kind of putting themselves forward, because it's not easy, especially when the cameras are going to be there, and the kind of ins and outs of the show where you might end up being eliminated on national TV isn't really something that a lot of people would want to sign up for. But the standard was very high. Initially over the trials, it was a little bit mixed, but then when it got back to the second day, when we called them back, it was did prove very hard to kind of narrow it down. And in each episode then it gets even harder, because you have to let 1 or 2 people go each week. The first elimination will be in tonight's episode, and that's when it gets very hard, because you also get to know the girls personally as well, and get to know them as people. And I think that's when it actually gets progressively harder, I think, throughout each training camp, because you don't really want to kind of end the journey for someone who's put in a lot of effort to get there.
You've just piqued my interest there on something. The trials. How did you cut them down to decide who comes to the trials and stuff like that? What was that like for you? Because obviously we're saying there's hundreds and you can probably only bring, maybe 40, 50 to a trial. How did you cut them down for the first two to get to the trial, and then cutting them down for the second to when they'll actually go into the camps and stuff like that? How did you go about that? And talk to us a little bit about that sort of process, because I'm intrigued, because with such high numbers.
Yeah, there was each applicant had to send in an application form, and part of it was their football experience, and other parts was their story behind it as well. So I suppose myself and Laura would have looked just purely based on the football side, and I suppose if a girl had never played football before and was looking to use this as her first opportunity to play, then it wasn't really the show for her, because we knew that the standard, we knew we knew certain players straight off, so we knew kind of what the benchmark of the standard would be like, and I think just based off that, you're able to kind of, I suppose, cut a few girls, unfortunately, just not that wouldn't have been at the level, and it wouldn't have been to anyone's benefit to invite them to trials. So it wasn't too bad, because we did get to look at a lot of players. We just played. We didn't do any drills or anything. It was just all matches for the trials. And if we saw anything at all, then we invited them back for the second day, and you could tell, because like that, you knew a few of the girls already, and you knew what kind of standard they were at, so you could kind of compare them then off that. So yeah, it was a long process, but we think we made the right decisions. I don't know. Yeah.
Were there any other considerations other than football? Because I know there's some really good characters on the show in terms of some of the participants, and I suppose no more than yourself, I've worked with a fair few number of girls over the last 2 decades. Stephanie Bowden would be one of them, would have been involved with the Leinster Colleges side back maybe 10, 12, 15 years ago. Great character then, even better character now. Were you aware, did you know Stephanie before the show, and how much has she impressed you?
Yeah, I would have come across her before, just in football circles, I suppose. And obviously she was on Operation Transformation as well, so people would have known her off that too, which is actually, I think, part of the reason she ran 12K before the match. She had already signed up to that before one of the trials. But she's a good character to have around. And no, I mean, we factored in as obviously for the TV, they would want characters like any, I suppose, producers would, but also as part of a team, I think it's important to have, a lot of different characters. And because we do have a pretty big squad, we kind of have room for, a variation of different personalities and that type of thing. So there's definitely a good mix there, and it does make for interesting watching as well.
Without going into much details in terms of the ins and outs of the episodes that are still to come, what are their meetings like when you're sitting in a meeting and you're trying to decide a player's future? Because you talked about sitting there for hours upon hours. How difficult are they? And has there been anybody who you'd sent the text message to, without naming anybody, who maybe you had to say no to, and because there's no doubt this difficult decisions.
Well, there was no text message sent anyway, so that would have been probably an easier thing. It was all face to face. So even with the girls, for the callbacks, there was 40 of them, and we gave each of them 15 minutes, I think. So you can do the maths on that. It was a lot of hours spent in that room. But so we kind of, each of them, we went through. But like I said, it's really the eliminations part where you're sitting down. It's kind of almost X Factor style, where there's 3 coaches and there's 3 girls up for elimination face to face. That's when, and you can imagine I suppose the tension of the cameras as well just adds to it. And some of them are really difficult. I found one of them in particular very, very difficult, that I was, it was even the next week. It's all I kind of thought about the following week. So it's difficult because it's not it is very much reality, although it is TV. The producers, they don't stage anything. It's not scripted. It's very much as it happens and how we see fit. If unfortunately, if the girl isn't up to it, to football standard, and kind of the 3 of us, if we decide between us that we feel that it's time for them to leave, then that's kind of the decision that will be made. The producers don't really impact it in that way or stage it at all. So it makes it, I suppose it is reality, but it makes it hard because, yeah, like I said, you get to know the girls personally as well, and you're together a lot. Like, you know, the training camps were 3 days together each month initially for the first, I think, 4 or 5 of the camps, or 4 of the camps, and then we're on episode 6 at the moment, so we're on the 5th training camp, which is over 3 days, so spread over 3 weekends. So, but you spend a lot of time together, so you kind of, you get to know the girls, and all of them are great characters as well.
You mentioned the X Factor. If you had to pair yourself up with a judge that you're most like from any of those TV shows, where would you fit on that equation? Are you more Louis Walsh or Simon Cowell, or somewhere in between?
I wouldn't like to classify myself like Simon Cowell anyway, although I think I was turned into a bad cop there for a while, but I don't think I fit the role that well. But I'd say somewhere in between. Like, it's hard because, you know, like you think it's an easy decision, but then when you're there and you have to, you know, tell the girls, and they have to fight their cause as well while you're in the room, and, you know, our decisions can change based off what they're saying too. Even you know, while we're in the room, we can kind of decide based off of what they're telling us as well. So I don't know. I don't think I'd fit any of those characters too much, but maybe by the end of it, you'll be able to characterize me into one of them. I don't know.
He'll definitely have you characterized at the end.
There's
no doubt about it.
It depends what parts are shown on the TV. Like I said, it could be made into the bad part.
It's all in the edit. Oh yeah, we've heard that.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you prep for this, mate? But did you watch many of the other series to sort of see how the coaches got on, or things like that? Or how did you? Because, you know, we've seen you doing a lot of TV stuff when it comes to RTE and stuff like that. Done some of the games on TG4 and stuff like that. How did you prep? Because this is completely different to probably something you're stepping out your norm as well a bit here.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is nothing like kind of what I would have done before. Obviously, for games and stuff, you have a set way now of preparing, and just, you know, it's all kind of factual and that type of thing. But no, I watched I watched one of the series, just the first kind of couple of episodes, just to have the idea of what was kind of involved in it, because I had seen them before, but it was a good few years ago at this stage, and obviously I wasn't kind of like analyzing it in detail. So it was more to see how the kind of trials process worked and that type of thing. And obviously the Irish side, I hadn't spoken in a good while, because I'd been traveling for the year previous as well. So I was speaking more Spanish in my head than Irish on the first day of the trials, so I was getting a bit mixed up. But you know, that came back as well. Like, when you're surrounded by the Gaelgors, you kind of you do get it back a bit more. So I don't think there was too much prep to be done, because, yeah, like I said, it's just really outside of the cameras. You know, you're just doing how you would usually with a team. Obviously, maybe from coach's perspective, we don't have as much time on the pitch working with them, because there is a lot of like team building stuff, and kind of like even tonight washing cows and that type of thing, which I wouldn't have usually, you know, implemented into teams training and that type of thing. But it's definitely been a really like big learning experience, and I think as coaches we just have to find ways of kind of getting our messages across in the most efficient way, because of the lack of kind of time on the pitch with them as well.
Well, let's see if we can get some spoilers out of you. I saw a trailer for this week's episode, where the big reveal of who you'd play in the final game. Obviously, TG4 based in Galway. You're a Galway person. There was a heavy presence from the Underdogs at the Avenir Sports Cup final. Can we get a spoiler out of maybe who they're going to play, or is that wait for another hour or two to find out?
Well, I do reveal it, yeah, on tonight's show. I think I was given the task of actually naming the team or that we'd be playing for that particular reason, because, yeah, we'll be playing Galway United on the 2nd of December even. So, yeah, it's one I'm really looking forward to, because I suppose if I had my pick of the teams, probably would be to play Galway, because I think they'll provide a really big challenge.
And will that be open to the public? Buy tickets, come along, support like previous episodes of the show?
Yeah, exactly. It'll be on a name in DC Park. So it'll be, I'm not sure of the kickoff time. I'm sure that'll be announced close to the day, but definitely the public are all invited along, and hopefully there'll be a big kind of crowd there, because it'd be great to get behind. Well, obviously they'd probably be supporting Galway, but I think it'd be really kind of hopefully an exciting game as well. We'll be kind of looking to hopefully get a result. I mean, it's going to be difficult. Underdogs teams in the past haven't fared very well in the final game, but it's a difficult one. It is hard to know how we'll get on, but we're putting the work in anyway. But it's a funny one, kind of trying to prepare to play against Galway when I've never done that before, obviously.
You'll know nearly every player, and you'll know every player on the pitch, and it'll be weird going into the away dressing room in DC Park. But like when you look at things like that, like playing against a top National League side, live on TG Car, like does it show the importance of how big the Underdogs even doing a women's football series is for Irish football at the minute?
Yeah, definitely, because I think in the past, like the interest wouldn't have been there really, to watch women's soccer in this kind of way. Like, and I think just it's a good year to do it as well off the back of the World Cup, because just the general public are more interested. And I think even like that, they don't necessarily have to be fully invested in women's football just because of the nature of the show. That like a lot of my friends who've absolutely no interest in soccer love the show. So it does kind of reach a lot of, like, a real widespread of audience too. But definitely I think it's a good year to do it, and it shows kind of the investment and the willingness of TG Cahir, and to put it in, and the work behind the scenes. Their productions have been great. They're really kind of I suppose they're well versed in how to do it now at this stage, just because they've done so many series. But they're kind of always willing to take on board then the soccer specific stuff that maybe myself, Laura and Charlie might kind of be trying to implement, or that type of thing as well. So it's been really enjoyable, and definitely it's a good time, I think, to do it for women's soccer.
You mentioned yourself, Laura and Charlie. Obviously, Laura, I know from her time involved in the game, but Charlie's a new name to me, despite he's a new face to me in women's football. I would know him from the men's side of the game. Who's in charge? What's the hierarchy there? Is it a team of managers, or are you the boss? Is Laura the boss? Is Charlie in charge? How's that working? Charlie in charge. I didn't mean to say it like that. What's the hierarchy? Who actually calls the shots when it comes down to the final game in terms of team selection?
I think it's a three-man team, I suppose. It probably comes down to 2-on-1
team, Dave. 3-person team.
3-person, yeah, exactly. Politically correct. Look, Vanishly up the management team really is how we'd be referred to. So it's a joint effort, I think. On any given day, I think one or either of us take the lead a little bit, and other days then another one might take the lead, or it just kind of depends on different aspects of. I think it's a really good balance, because the others, particularly, they have such great experience in the game, and coaching wise, like you said, Charlie has a lot of coaching in the GA as well, and men's soccer, and Laura has years of experience behind her with the underage Irish teams, and they're all. Luckily, we've all kind of agreed on how we would want to play and the formation that we want to play in the game, and kind of we do see eye to eye in a lot of things. When it comes down to having to name the starting 11, I think that's going to be an interesting one. We actually have a Zoom tomorrow night, and we're going to try to figure that out, which should be interesting, to see, because there are so many girls pushing to be in the starting 11. It's going to be really another difficult decision to make. But yeah, it's a team effort, I think, really.
Without giving too much away, because I am aware that TG Cahir won't want you giving away massive spoilers. By the time most people watch this or listen to this, they'll know it's Galway United they're going to play. But in terms of the squad size at the moment in the real world, not in the TV episode, but what's the squad size now? Have you down from that 40 to a more manageable number?
I think it's around 30 or that type of thing now. I think. I can't even remember back, but around that, and then it's like 1 or 2 get cut each week, and there's 5 training camps altogether. So, but I think the eliminations finish on the 4th training camp. So, at the moment now, obviously in real life we're down to our final squad, but in the show we're just starting with the eliminations tonight. So, we'll still have quite a large squad, because I think it's kind of good for when we're training to have, been able to do 11v11 and that type of thing as well. So it'll be a large squad at the end, and unfortunately not everyone will get on the pitch in the final game. But I suppose it is going to be a squad effort, and kind of everyone is as important as another, on it.
Does this scratch the knuckles or itch the knuckles a little bit, maybe, to go down the coaching route in a more permanent capacity when the Underdogs are finished? Because I know you've done your UEFA B license. Does this maybe to give you that sort of edge to want to go down that route in the coming years?
Yeah, definitely. Like down the line, I don't think in the short term, just again because of kind of having to commit to being in one place for a long time. It just it's not something I want to do at the moment. But definitely, yeah, I'd love to coach a lot more. I do a little bit now at Salt of Devon when I can. Always kind of would have taken a couple of teams in the past, but at the moment I just dip in and out of it because I suppose looking back, like I would have received a lot of really good coaching, and kind of I'd be grateful for a lot of that coaching. So it would be nice to be able to be in a position then to give back, and I'd love to do, particularly with Salt of Devon. I think I'd like to do a lot more. Then I've done a little bit with Gainer Cup teams as well in the past and that type of thing. But definitely, I like. I think the underage in particular is great because they're like sponges, and they can take on a lot of information. You can see a lot of change very very quickly. The younger you get them, I think, the more scope there is for development and for improvement. So I kind of I do definitely enjoy working with that age group as well.
Yeah, no, and Phil Trill doesn't have to be worried just yet. But don't wait around too long, Phil, or maybe be coming for your job. In terms of locally, let's bring it back to the league for a moment. Just we finish up, and as we have you, Galway played last night. Disappointingly, I suppose from their point of view, a former player came back to hunt them, Chloe Singleton, with a goal just on the half hour. Have you followed much of Galway's? I suppose you're scouting them now, but have you followed much of their league and their season so far?
Yeah, I have. It's been kind of, obviously they haven't played a game there for a good while, and but yeah, they had a very positive, I think, start to the season, and they were going really well, and then hit a little dip, I think, and kind of have now settled into that mid-table spot where we know and well, or we know and we don't love, but that's where we kind of seem to have always ended up in the past, kind of in that area of between 4th and 6th place. I think at the moment they're a point ahead of 5th place, so hopefully they can hang on to it, although they do have difficult games. I think they're playing Peamount and Wexford in the last 2 games, so they'll definitely be challenges. But yeah, I've been following, I've been in touch with obviously Lindsay a lot, been like, it's great to see her still kicking the ball around and doing great. She's kind of really led them really well this season, I think, especially with a lot of the new younger players in, and I think, yeah, they've been doing very well, and it was nice to see them, like I said, win the All-Ireland Cup as well.
The one difference, Bethany, the one disappointment about the Underdogs is we won't see Meabh captain against Lindsay.
I was also going to ask you because Julianne Russell has made her debut a couple of weeks ago for Galway. She's back in the game as well. I met her on that trip up to America. I bumped into her, not America, to the to Lazar Road, Viva. I bumped into her on the way up filling station and had a brief chat. She was going up with the family, and but nice to see her back on the field. You would have played a lot with her over the years. What's it like seeing players that you were friendly with still on the pitch doing their thing? And not just one or two of them. Like I remember you played. My first time probably meeting you would have been, we played you in a cup semi-final in, I want to say, 2006. And yourself and Fahy would have been part of that Galway team. It was with UCD at the time. And I don't know if you remember the game, but you probably do. Those kind of losing semi-finals tend to stick in your craw, particularly when there's penalties involved. But like Nicola Sinnott played in that game for UCD. She's still active in the league as well. And there's a few other bodies around that, both sides, that are still playing. There's some serious longevity in the sport.
Yeah, definitely. But even I do remember that game. But I remember we won the cup the following year, so it wasn't too bad in hindsight. But still, at the time, yeah, losing the semi-finals is never fun. But definitely there's longevity, like I said, and I think just the National League sort of provides that now as well, because if girls are based at home and they're settled in one area, they can play in a team for a long time, and I think it's really good and important, I suppose, like I said already, for the younger girls coming through to kind of see that, and they can help them along, provide them with the experience, because I think you need that in every successful team, like you see, in all the teams who are doing well, from particularly in the top half of the table, where they have a lot of, they do have older players as well, bringing on the younger, less experienced players too. So yeah, it's nice to see them. I actually would have kind of seen a lot of them up at that awards or the cap presentation that night as well, or that day. So it was good to kind of catch up on them and just discuss how far the women's game has come, because obviously when we were growing up, the league wasn't there yet. So I think you'll see girls playing in the league now for 15, 20 years even, because that's what they'll be able to do, because the league is sustainable at this stage. We know, luckily, it looks like the league is going to be around for a long time to come. Obviously, it's not perfect in any way, but I think particularly the professionalism side of it, I think it's important not to go too fast with that, because you don't want to see teams folding, unnecessarily. So I think it's important that kind of we keep that sustainable model going for as long as we can.
And to put it in context, that semi-final we talked about, we look now at the semi-finals with both of them having 4-figure attendances and breaking records all over the place. That game probably played in front of friends and family. Like, there was definitely a lot of, I think it might have been, but it wasn't Salthill Devon. It might have been Merview, was it?
Merview, yeah, I think it was Merview.
And like there was no fence around the pitch. It was like a junior game, and to see it come so far in less than 2 decades is phenomenal. And of course, the likes of yourself, Julianne, Meabh, going on to the World Cup as well. Like, a lot of players came through those teams, and they were really the top sides in the country at the time. But again, nearly a decade before the league started. In terms of, just to get it on the record, there was another game played last night. Shamrock Rovers ran out winners in the a double from Steph Zambra, who scored twice in the last 10 minutes to make sure they won that game 3-1 against who they were playing DLR Waves. Yeah, in Belfield. This weekend's fixtures, again, Meabh, might just grab your opinion on them as we come into them. Galway United at home to Peamount. We've seen some crackers between these sides in recent years. Can Galway put one foot into that semi, or the fourth place with Peamount, kind of, I suppose, in the home straight for the title celebrations the week after?
Yeah, you'd hope so, but obviously Peamount are the champions for a reason, and they're deserving champions. I think this year a lot of people wouldn't have expected them, particularly with the off-season transfers and everything. They wouldn't have expected Peamount to win. So a lot of people, myself included, I think we're happy to see them win this year. But yeah, it's hard to know. Obviously, from a Galway perspective, you'd hope that maybe they're already getting the party started for the following weekend, but. Yeah, it's a difficult one to call, because Galway obviously are trying to push on for that fourth place. So hopefully they can get the job done. Our camp this weekend is in Galway, so I think some of our players might even get a chance to have a look at their future opposition there on the night as well.
Of course, full round of games to play at Wexford. They travel to Athlone. Sligo, they host DLR Waves, Treaty and Shamrock Rovers, and Shells and Bows, the Dublin Derby, in the early kickoff.
Worth noting, Treaty and Shamrock Rovers is also live on TG Carr, who have done a wonderful job. Maybe I can't not ask this, because it's something we've asked guests in recent, and you're a prime example for someone who's playing the league for so long. Where would you like to see the league go to? Because over we've seen it take massive steps in the last couple of years. And you talked about maybe not rushing things. Where would you like to see the league go over the next couple of years?
I think I'd love to see, I suppose, slightly separate to it, but I'd love to see each of the clubs or the clubs that are in a position to kind of link in with their third level institutions and try to provide, scholarship opportunities for girls. Obviously, Sky are doing a great job providing bursaries to national team players, but personally, I think that might be better invested in girls who are on the fringes of the national team, or who are struggling to keep a part-time job going while trying to play in the league and in college at the same time. Because I just think that age group of kind of, our 18 to 22-year-olds, it's a huge kind of area where, like I said, if you put the investment in, it could really benefit not only the girls themselves, but also the national team as well, because not every player, is as good as the likes of Abby Larkin, who can go and play professionally at such a young age. And also a lot of girls don't want to do that because they might value their education a lot. And I think it's important as female athletes that don't get the same, obviously, reimbursement as males, that education is so important that a lot of them would choose the likes of Amber Bryant or that type, various other girls who would have chosen to do their degree first before pursuing a professional kind of career. So I think if we could try, provide like reimbursement of that type of way, that at least then the girls are still, getting some form of payment as such. But just, I suppose it's really taking away the need to work part-time, that at least then they can train as full-time athletes, as well. So I think that side of it would be important. And yeah, if obviously if clubs are in a position to provide travel expenses and that type of thing to ease the burden on the girls as well, or accommodation and that type of stuff, would be great as well. But I think, like I said, it's small steps are important, not to jump too far ahead.
Yeah, your alma mater, University of Galway as it is now, and Billy Cleary, your former boss as well, have been making great strides. They're one of many who are making great strides on that side.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look back in 2006, myself and Aoife, you would have, each been receiving 2 scholarships. We received a scholarship from NUIG, and then we received a scholarship from the FAI. In addition to that, so it really did help us in those times, because neither of us worked when we were in college, because of those additional funds that we were receiving. So I think it would be. I think just it wouldn't have to be that much, but I think small amounts definitely would help the girls out. And like I said, sorry to cut across there, just something.
No, 100%.
I feel strongly about, and it's just small steps that can be taken, to make a big difference.
In the grand scheme of things, it's not massive money that would make a massive difference to the lives of these girls from that key age, 18 to 21, 22, 23, when they're in third level education. And then they can go and have a decade in the professional game. They can do, as you did yourself, you spent a bit of time in Sweden in the professional, I think it was Eccleston, maybe you were at, was it?
Yeah, pretty close.
I butchered the pronunciation of that.
Yeah, not too bad.
But so, like, you were there.
We used to call it for a while.
Yeah, you were there when Louise Quinn was there at the same time.
Yeah.
You would have been teammates. So I would have followed your progress there at the same time, but it was like that is still an option at 22, 23, as the likes of Amber Barrett found out. I suppose finally, just to finish up on the Underdogs, it is on live on TG Car to people who are watching this in real time in about 25 minutes. Do go put the kettle on, get the snacks, and tuck in for the last hour, because it's going to be a great watch again. If you're watching it on replay, where can they find it? The TG Car player?
Yeah, exactly. tgcar.ie, and then if you just search for TG Car Underdogs on the player, it'll show up there soon after the show. And like I said, for the likes of Aaron who haven't watched the first episode yet, it's available to watch. So yeah, you can catch up on it anytime. But yeah, it's definitely worthwhile.
The final, that's where they can watch it. But the final question I want to ask you, because we all know some of the names, you've mentioned some of them. Shauna Jackson might have been a problem to that goal scoring issue for Galway over the years, had she played in the league for longer than she did. Cara Mullins, we know these names, the Barbara O'Connells, who've been around for a decade or more within the sport, but there's a couple of youngsters who are in that squad who maybe we haven't seen a whole pile of game time. I know Leah McHugh particularly impressed me both when she was at Sligo Rovers under 17, but also in friendlies against National League opposition for Con Rangers, her club side in recent seasons. She stood out as a talent. I'm sure she's not the only one. Are we likely to see players of that ilk make their way into the National League on the back of this, or who can we look out for in the series that you think is going to make an impression?
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I mean, there's a lot of girls involved with Terenure, the club in Dublin, that they won the Intermediate Irish Cup this year, and a lot of those would be very close, to, if not having already played at the level, they'd be very close to it now. Even the likes of Ciara Smith, the defender there with Terenure, and there's a lot of them. I wouldn't be able to name them all, but like I said, Leah McHugh as well. She would have come to trial with Galway WFC back in the day as well, and she was really close to it at that stage. Just maybe slightly not ready, but I think definitely we'll see. Like if it is what the girls want, I definitely would imagine that a few of them will be picked up by National League teams going into next season. I think definitely they're at the level. If they're not already at the level, then they will be by the end of the show as well. So.
You must have seen me tweeting about Ciara Smith last week when she put the picture of being on the Underdogs, because it's the one thing I tweeted last week was how no National League club was taking a chance on Ciara Smith. Only last week I tweeted that.
Yeah, she is. She's a great player, and has that leadership as well. And even the likes of Jenny Claffey there as well. She would have played tennis for Ireland. Yeah, she's just taken up soccer in the last few years, and yeah, there's such a wide range of girls from all around the country as well. We have Hayley from Limerick as well, and there's big representation of girls, not just from Dublin, just all throughout the country, which is important as well. And I think it's just going to be really good kind of for people to follow their journeys throughout it, all the way up to that game, like I said, against Galway United on the 2nd of December.
get your tickets, watch the show. TG Carr Player if you've missed it or you're watching us on repeat. Maeve, thanks so much for giving us the hour. Hope you enjoy the show, watching it back again, because it's fresh to you too, even though you're in it. And as always, a pleasure to have you on the show, and we look forward to watching the actual series as it progresses through the rest of the year, and hopefully we'll see you in MDC Park in a month's time.
Thanks a million.
Thanks so much. Aaron, again, as always, a pleasure. We'll sign off there, and we'll talk to you again next week for the second last show of the year, probably. Get in touch if you want us to talk about anything in particular. We'll chat to you again then.